Hi everyone, yasas, que Carlos to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today I'm going to teach you how to make pineapple coffee cake. This has become one of our favorite cakes around here. The pineapple makes it so bright and sunny and it's easy to make. It all comes together in one bowl. Who doesn't love a crumb topping on a cake? I mean, this is just delicious. Let's get started. We're going to begin by making the crumb topping. In a bowl, I'm going to melt 4 ounces of butter. This is unsalted butter. If you're using salted butter, then leave the salt out. To that, I'm going to add 2/3 of a cup or 150 grams of granulated sugar, half a cup of flour, a pinch of salt, and the zest of half a lemon. Mix that all up until everything is combined, and then you can pop this in your freezer while you make the batter. Next, we're going to prepare the pineapple. So I'm using canned pineapple today. I'm using 1.5 cans because you need 1.5 pounds. And these are pineapple rings, which are very sweet. That's why I'm using them. They're so simple to do. If you have fresh pineapple, that works too. Just reserve 6 of the rings for the topping and then cut up all the rest and set them aside. In a big bowl, go ahead and add 6 ounces of unsalted butter. Make sure it's nice and soft. 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar, a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, a teaspoon of pure almond extract, and begin whisking that all together. If you have a hand mixer, you can use that. I'm just using a whisk because it's just easy. It works, but I am going to need to add the eggs at this point so that way everything mixes properly. So 2 eggs that are at room temperature are going in, and then I'll just continue to whisk this until everything is nice and smooth. In a bowl over here, I have 1 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour. That's about 238 grams. 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and I'll also add the remaining zest that's on this lemon. Whisk that all together, and then before I add the flour mixture in, I'll add half a cup of Greek yogurt to the butter egg mixture. Whisk that all up until it's combined. Then add the flour. Whisk it all up until the flour is incorporated. Next, we're going to add the chopped up pineapple, and I'll switch to a spatula, and I'm just going to fold it in until it's coated in all of that batter. I have a 9-inch round springform pan here. This is the one that you use generally to make cheesecake in. I love using these because it's so easy to release the cake out of the pan afterwards. Make sure it's greased. You could use the butter that was left over on the wrapper, or you could spray it with some baking spray. Transfer all of the butter into the pan and smooth out the top. Add the pineapple rings on top, and then it's time to take the crumble out of the freezer. It's going to be one even layer, so just break it up with a fork. If it's still not completely set, if it's still a little bit thin and watery, you can pop it back into the freezer for another 5 minutes while your oven preheats to 350 degrees. Break the crumble all up together and then top it over the pineapple. Spread it out so that way it evenly covers the cake. This is going to bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for between 55 minutes to an hour. The crumb topping is going to be nice and golden, and the cake is going to be very moist. Let this cake cool to room temperature, then carefully remove it from the cake pan, transfer it to a cake platter, and it's ready to serve. Okay, so just like that, it's ready. The hardest part is waiting for it to cool down so that way you could slice into it. One thing that's very important that I like to tell you, try not to overbake this. When you go in with a toothpick to test the doneness of the cake, because there's so much pineapple in here, it does release liquid. Don't let it fool you into thinking that the cake is uncooked and then you can continue to cook it until it dries out. At about the 50-minute mark, that's the sweet spot in my oven, 50 to 55 max, it's usually ready. I take it out. Once it sits on the counter for about an hour, it needs at least an hour to cool down. It'll settle and it'll just be perfect. I always underbake my cakes a little bit rather than overbake, because once you overbake them, they're so dry. Then everybody just eats the crumb topping and leaves the rest of the cake. This cake smells amazing. It tastes so good. Let's do the taste test. Oh my goodness. When I was recipe testing this, I thought this would be amazing in a cookie too, so I'm going to start working on that. It is so good. I cannot tell you how moist it is. The crumb topping is perfectly crisp. Tastes like a cookie on top. Tastes like there's shortbread on top. It's so good. The pineapple is nice and sweet. It's a light cake, perfect for a cup of coffee or hot tea. Make sure you call some friends over and you share this goodness. Head on over to the website to print this out. If you want to make another delicious blueberry coffee cake, click over here and I'll see you right over there. Yes, yes.